So we are at the 2 weeks out mark, 17 days today from the British finals. We are back with Gaz. We're not doing loads of kitchen stuff, sadly. So we're going to go train hamstrings at Flex Unit. So I made my pre-workout, which has got Scupa, Jack 3D, it's not the original sadly, and Superhuman Pump, but by Alpha Line. This one is from my training partner Dylan, who's also a client. He's also growing quicker than I am at the moment, which is depressing, but I'm going to catch a motherfucker up in 17 days. Anyway, so a lot has changed since we last filmed. So did the Two Bros show in Bournemouth. I won't speak badly about the federation, but it was a bit of a shit show for numerous reasons. But one thing that happened to myself which caused me to look dog shit on stage was some GI stress due to the orals we were using. So I've known this for years, but I can't metabolize Winstrol, which for the people that are unaware, Winstrol is an anabolic steroid. It's called stanozol. A lot of people like using it in a prep. I don't. It dries you out. It does make you look harder. But for whatever reason, I can't digest it. My liver can't handle it, which causes me a lot of GI stress and issues with my gallbladder. So I get a lot of bile and acid reflux kind of come up. Along with that, I get really bad bloating, can't control my midsection, and horrendous constipation. I apologise if you're eating. So just like any bad side effect you can think of when you're 3 days out happens. Usually it happens when I'm just using Winstrol. For those of you that don't know, Anavar is very, very expensive to make, to get real legit Anavar, and often under people that make the steroids we use top up Anavar with Winstrol to make up for it. So nobody's fault, it's just my own. There's Winstrol in Anavar I was using. I was ironically using it a week out from the Scottish. So the reason I'm excited going into the British is now that we're not using it, I originally thought the Scottish was my best look, but looking back on that day and the kind of what happens to my body when I'm using Winstrol, and the GI stress is like I get horrendous bloating and I can't pass food, and even simple things like an increase in water will cause bloating. So the day after the show, the day of the show, any shit food I ate, I'd get the horrendous type of bloating and acid reflux I'd get from Winstrol, which implies I wasn't my best at the Scottish, like I've just said. Going into the Bournemouth show, I think I went 2 days without passing food, which when you're carbon up isn't ideal. And then it just causes horrendous acid reflux. Like I still don't think my throat is kind of back to normal from the amount of acid reflux I was getting, which isn't lovely. It's grim, but the way I can relate it is when I've had battles with mental health, and without getting too depressing, when I've tried to take my own life, sadly. So here though. First time I drank a big bottle of Jack Daniels and bleach, and it burned my esophagus, and that's how severely my throat was from the amount of acid reflux I got. So I didn't have a good time, but we're fine now, I'm better now. I got my bloods done pretty much as soon as I realised what caused it. I remember sitting in the car with Sarah. The show was on this Saturday, we were coming home from the gym on this Tuesday night from Flex Unit, and literally started giggling in the car, and she was like, what's the matter? And I was like, this is what's caused the acid reflux, this is what's caused all the issues. And she was, why are you laughing? I was like, because my own fucking fault, because I know my body can't digest it. It's like knowing you're allergic to peanut butter and like eating a Reese's peanut butter cup and being like, I wonder why I had that reaction. I was like, well, you're allergic to it, dumbass. But yeah, all good now. Anyway, is that broken down. That was a long talking. So we're still on the very, very, very dog shit low food diet. Doing roughly about 80 to 90 grams of carbs a day. On training days, that is meal 1, pre-workout, post-workout. And then on rest days, it's meal 1, and I think it's meant to be meal 2, but I move it back to meal 4, just so I can get a little bit more energy. Fats are pretty low. Fats are about 60 grams a day. The majority of that coming from my steak meal, so no actually direct fats. Apart from 10 grams in my pre-workout meal, which I will make after this. One thing to anyone dieting or anyone looking to compete is make the effort when your food gets low. Make the effort to make it more voluminous. So that's why I keep adding water to this cream rice, because it is only 65 grams, but you wouldn't think it is. And 2, make the effort for it to fucking taste good. If you're complaining about being hungry and wanting all this like cakes and pizza and stuff, but you're not even making the effort with your own food, you got no sympathy from me. Anyway, a couple other things have changed. So my daily routine and where I'm training at. So I'm now training at Flex Unit. It's down the road from Edinburgh, so in Whitburn. Much better gym. Better environment, better kit. The days I don't train with my client Dylan, I get the bus, which is about 90 minutes there, 90 minutes back, and it is worth the drive. Something I've kind of been preaching to a couple of my clients recently is how much are you committed to your goal, how much you're going to invest in it. If it's worth it for you, then there shouldn't be an asterisk to that. Like, for me to become a pro bodybuilder, for me to look how I want to look, for me to achieve what I want to achieve within business and bodybuilding, 90 minutes on the bus once a week, 3 hours on a bus once a week, that's not a bad trade-off to me. Anyway, so my cream rice is cooked. I'll kind of let that sit. So when I'm home, by the time I get home from training, it'll be nice and cool, and I can add what I need to add to it, which is basically some fucking protein powder. And then I've got my oats. One thing I've been doing recently for a good wee while now is I blend it up in our blender, so it kind of makes like a rice flour, or oat flour rather. And it adds a bunch of stuff to it. So I've got cinnamon, nutmeg, ginger, like half a teaspoon of sweetener, and some, is it flaxseed or linseed? Whatever that is. Chia seeds. So that to it. Again, I'm just going to box it out a little bit. So microwave that, yet to nail it this week without it overspilling in the microwave. So if it overspills and I have a tantrum, I apologise.
Would be good for the outtakes though. Be good for the outtakes?
Yeah, good for outtakes. So I'll have that. I add some berries to it. So I just kind of adjust some of my food. So I get some carbs from the berries, but not much. A whey paste and then a scoop of whey. So I'm going to make that now. I do find in the past, in off seasons, for some reason I struggle to digest whey protein concentrate as a shake. But what I've been doing a lot, what I tend to do a lot in preps, is the leaner I get and the deeper I get into prep, the lower my food gets. I don't have shakes. I just make it into food in some shape or form. So whey pastes at the moment is my new fave, which is literally a scoop of whey, a little bit of water. But what I have been doing is, I don't read that on the scales, I don't really like that out. What I've been doing rather than using water is all the 0 calories, 0 sugar syrups. So it just makes it really sweet, really. So So I'll mix that up, and then when my oats are cooked, I kind of just drizzle that on it. Something I'm trying to explain to a client is like, if you look at protein powder as a shake, you kind of, especially when you're in diet phase, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Whereas like if you look at it as like a condiment or a sauce, then it'll make your meals a little bit more interesting. It makes dieting suck less. So. I'm a bit conservative because I'm filming. Usually I just pour way too much on. I'm like, fuck. And fuck it. It's not spilled over, I think. Drives me nuts you shouldn't spill it. I feel like I can never be like... The perfectionist in me wants to take it out and redo the whole thing. Because I always make this right before a training, I never have time to do that. So it's spilled over and I've scooped everything up with the sponge and scrape it off the sponge. I guess fine, whatever's on that sponge won't live in my body. Right, so that's my wheat paste done. There, that's my cream rice done. Let that cook. So I'm going to grab my bag, make up my intro, and get ready to leave. So I fucked it. The key is just scraping off all the crap.
Oh, that is an unhappy Kieran.
It is! I was so confident, I was like, yes, gonna nail it, not gonna be late for Dylan. Got you cocking. Took my head off the ball. It'd be easier, I don't like those microwaves where it's a dial. I'd rather put the digits in, actually put in the time. You know the ones where you got a time, you can put in 2 seconds. Much better. Well, you hold some water on it. So we are through at flex unit. We'll train some hamstrings, some calves, a little bit of quads. Dylan has been beating me in most of these sessions. It's going to be a kind of stripped back version of how I'm going to be training come with the off season. So still very heavy, still rather low volume, just a lot more intensifiers, which keeps it fun and interesting. Yeah, so expect me looking in pain a lot today. Extreme stretch, so it's a 42 DC style technique. So you take the muscle to failure, and then while it's loaded, so while it's underweight, you go into a stretch for minimum 45 seconds. Each week he beats me, because he goes first. Come on, get into it. The key is getting into a comfy, not comfy position, but breathing through it, and then just kind of sucking up. It's more painful than taking the muscle to its actual failure though. But it's a phenomenal technique for stubborn muscle groups. Come on, suck it up, you're in the range. So I like doing it for lats, the end of my chest sessions, calves and triceps. Suck it up, keep on the calves, tap it when you're ready. Keep going. 111 to beat. You always beat me though. So now we're going to do seated calf raise. So we did 2 sets on standing, 2 sets seated. I love a seated calf raise. It hits your calf in a different angle than just being upright does. You notice when we did the loaded stretch on the standing,
is I adjust where my knees and my hips and my feet are, so I can kind of hit different parts of the calf while I'm stretching it. So the end, I'll kind of like leaning back and sitting into it, and it hits in a completely different way. So now they're loaded up with blood, we're going to do 2 heavy sets, and second set we're going to do a drop set, then actually get into training hamstrings. My left leg's weaker than my right. So whether it's left leg, single leg stuff, single arm stuff, whatever it is, I always start your weak side first, because then you're going into your fresh side, your strong side, fatigued. Whereas if I went into my strong side fresh as fuck, I'd hit reps that I wouldn't be able to match for my left leg. And also, if you're starting off your weaker side, your imbalanced side fresh, so you're more likely to bring up whatever imbalance you may have. So that's single leg done. So now on to lie-in, then we'll get into the rest of the meat and tatties of hamstrings. For hamstrings, I like doing all the curls. It's the bicep of the leg. So because at this gym we've got access to a prone or lying leg curl, a single leg curl and a seated, I just do them all. 2 work sets on each bar that's seated. And this lying leg curl, particularly good. If someone gets the Lord of the Rings reference there, I will be very impressed. This is probably the most fucked up thing we do for legs today, bar what we're going to do in the leg press. So we've already done single leg curl, going to failure, then extending it with a bottom end partial to train the hamstring in its fully lengthened range. Yes, it's not like biomechanically smart to train it in the shortened range when we're fatigued, but this stack's really light. So what we do 2 sets of just failure. The first set we do a 3 count in the hole, 10 reps, and then just as many as we can after. And then the second set we just go after it, but with a 6-second negative. I'm yet to do. I can't decide which set's harder, but they're both tough. So we're doing adductors now, so we're kind of wrapping up the posterior focus of today's leg day. So train calves, train hamstrings, did our big loaded movement, and then finishing off with adductors. I understand why people do the adductors at the start of a session, but for me, if I'm deadlifting or if I'm leg pressing, if I'm doing a squat movement, your adductor stabilizes everything. So if you fatigue your adductors before you squat, before you hack squat, before you deadlift, if you stiff leg deadlift, you're going into a movement where you're trying to go strong and go heavy, pre-fatigued and not unstable, but not 100% fresh. And it's different, the curl work and then deadlifts, because your hamstrings, yes, they stabilize your knee, but when I'm pulling off the floor and my knees are driving forward, when I'm getting to that failure point, it's not my hamstrings that struggle, it's the adductor, and it's the same with squatting. So I understand why people like doing adductors at the start of sessions. I've done that before, but for me, I'd rather do light adductor work, light abductor work before squat movement, so I'm fresh and I'm warm. Otherwise you're opening yourself up for injuries. You're meant to be fucked up from deadlifts, fucked up from a single leg extension. Whenever I coach people, it's always like, for a session, they'll be like, oh, it'll be the squats that fuck me. And they'll get to the end of a leg session, they'll do something like this, and that's what fucks them. That's why there's like the little pride of like, yeah, fuck them up with something weird. So it's a hardcore way in this, having to hop off the machine. So this is definitely the toughest thing we're doing today for legs, I think. So we're doing 3 sets of 20, working up as we go, trying to keep the pace nice and fast. a wider stance of your feet so it hits more the hamstrings and glutes. Like we're still gonna get a lot of quad stimulus as we near that failure point. So that's why we're doing all these pre-fatigue sets. So this is the last one. We're gonna take a big rest and then do a 6x6 muscle round. And when we hit failure on that, that's when we'll get the quads kicking in.
So we have just wrapped up hamstrings and a lot of quads at Flex Unit. Been training, loving training there. We've started training there since we got back from Bournemouth from the last show. Bunch of different reasons, better kit, better environment. I don't work there, so I don't actually have as many people stopping me to chat, which sounds rude, but when, like, I want to go pro with this, so I treat my training like a job. And if you only got 2 hours a day to get so much done at your job and someone's stopping you and chatting to you, it'll get under your skin, especially when you're on zero food like I am. Anyway, so it was a really good session. Did quite a bit of chatting as we went through, so hopefully you guys got all that. So standing calf raise 2 sets, seated calf raise 2 sets, single leg curl 2 sets, lying leg curl 2 sets, 1 all out sitting deadlifts. I think I got 8 or 9 reps at 240. I was happy. We did, I think it was last week was the first, 2 weeks ago was when I deadlifted from the floor properly in ages, and it absolutely humbled me. I just wasn't like in my line, as it were. I'm very good at deadlifting, I'm very good at pulling off the floor, but when I've not done it for a while, it takes me a while to kind of get used to that, just to get used to the movement. So that 240 today sets me up nicely for like a 250-ish next week, and then it means when I come back to hit the off season, I'll be able to get to peak strength very, very quickly. But I'll talk about that in the next video next week. But yeah, it was a really good session, enjoyed it. Training with Dylan at the moment is absolutely fucking amazing. No chatting, no bullshit, just gonna get into it, get on with it, push each other as hard as we can. His strength is creeping up, so it's keeping me honest. And it'll be fun for him to transition into his prep phase early, mid next year when I get balls deep into my off season. So yeah, I've got an hour walk to do tonight. It was meant to be 45 minutes, but I had a lot of work to do this morning, so I did 30 minutes on the bike, and then I'm going to do a good hour walk pretty much as soon as I finish this, and have some fluids, so I can hopefully be home from my walk about half eight, 8:45, and have my last meal, my steak meal with some salads, and then off to bed. I've been enjoying going on my big walks at night. Now that it's getting a little bit colder, the fresh air and the cool air of it seems to like knock fuck at me, for lack of a better word. The nights I've done it, my sleep's been much better. Like Sarah mentioned that, like, I've been that tired that my snoring's actually kept her up, so as much as that she's not going to get a good sleep, I am, which is the priority. We just won't tell her that. And then no cardio for the next 3 days, which is quite nice. Starting to see the physique start to flatten out, which is good. It means we're getting into those last little fat stores. To get fat free, you got to go flat. That's all it is. So anyway, that wraps up the 17 days out vlog.